Welcome to Notes on a Painting. Notes on a Painting is a podcast by artist Olivia Kemp and art historian Esme Garlake. Together each week we will discuss a painting that one of us has chosen and researched. Our choices of painting will reflect where our tastes differ and overlap across the history of art.
Hello,
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Yeah, how are you doing?
Great. Sun is
Good.
out.
I know it really
Christmas
is.
vibes.
Yeah, I need to. This room is actually so it's very dark, it's very in the shade, so I need to just go outside and absorb some sun
Yeah, vitamin D, touch some
afterwards. Yeah.
grass. Everything's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Cool. So
Okay,
what painting
so
have you got?
I have got it's a painting called either The Happy Couple or The Carousing Couple, 1630. It's by Judith Leyster and it lives in the Louvre.
Cool.
Would you like to describe the painting?
Yes, so the painting is of a man and a woman who are dressed in um the I guess the classic Dutch like 17th century. So
Mm,
yeah, where it's got the frills. The man has a big black hat on, and the big ru white ruff and swathes of grey fabric, like silky fabric in his cloak. And it's often hard to actually figure out what types of clothes. This is fashion historians who would know
yeah.
exactly what kind of clothes they are. Um, and he is, and then the woman has a kind of head, like white head veil almost
It's like a
on.
bonnet, but it looks sort of
Bonnet, that's it.
translucent.
Um, and a white cloak over her shoulders. And he is slightly more, they're sat at this t small table, and he is slightly more to the front of it, so we can actually see his whole body, whereas the woman is sat behind him. And the man is playing, I think it's a violin or viola. Again,
Yeah.
sorry for the
It's a
just
string
the
instrument that
vague.
you can hold.
Someone will know and be like, "That's outrageous that you don't know that that's a." But yeah, he's playing this, and he's got his one leg up on the other in a very relaxed position, and he's looking out to the viewer with his head slightly tilted and smiling. I always find it weird when figures smile in these old paintings. They just look kind of funny. Um, and she is looking at him very coyly to the
Mm,
side with a little smirk almost. And in her hand, she's got one hand, she's almost offering him this glass.
yeah.
It looks like it doesn't look like a glass of wine, like it looks like quite a small glass, but she has a pitcher of presumably wine or beer next to her.
Mm,
Probably not, I don't know. Again. But the picture that she has in her right hand is like resting on the table, and it's quite ornate. I mean, it's a silver, yeah, silver jug. And then the background is very dark. There's a bit just behind the man, there's like a grey curtain
mm,
hanging down in shadow. And then to on the other side, so almost behind the woman, there seems to be like a kind of sky and distant trees through
yeah.
a view, but I think it might be, I don't know, this is where the reproduction might be a little bit, it maybe is easier to see in real life, but I think there's a column in the back as well.
It does look like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, like because
It's a
there's
bit
a
hard.
silhouette against the landscape. So yeah, it's a very fun and intriguing interaction that's going on. But yeah, I'm also intrigued, like where are they? It doesn't
Yeah, it's a
particularly
very odd room, isn't it?
like I would say because of the drinking and the general merriment that it would be a kind of tavern or something. But
Mm.
um yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So, as usual, I'm going to go into a bit of detail about the artist and then I'll talk a bit about the painting and then come back to the artist again. So, we don't have an exact birth date for Judith Leyster, but we do know that according to the church records, she was baptized in 1609. So, we can assume she was born around that time.
Mm.
She was born in Harlem and was the eighth child to her father, who was a cloth maker. And not much is known about her early training, which is unsurprising, as not for the first time we're talking about a female artist who was largely forgotten about after her death, as opposed to being documented or commemorated or anyone feeling the need to write this stuff down. So there's some speculation that maybe at some point in her training or early career, she began to take her work more seriously due to her father's bankruptcy. We know he changed career and ended up being a brewer and had a brewery in his name. So there may have been, because of him going bankrupt and changing career, some need to support her family. And if she was showing promise and her training was going well, perhaps at that point she decided to take it as a profession rather than a hobby, as it was something that her family could rely upon.
Mm.
There was an artist running a respected workshop in Harlem at the time. His name was Franz Peter Stegreber. So some scholars believe there's a good chance she may have trained there. And like some other times in history, we do know that female artists did have a place in the Dutch Golden Age. And we've previously done episodes on Clara Peters and Rachel Roish. So although we still have good reason to believe they may not have been treated the same as their male counterparts or had the same scope of subject matter, they were operating and earning within the art market at that time.
Mm.
So in the 1620s, her family moved to Utrecht, and there was a school of painting in the city at the time called the Utrecht Caravaggisti, that she may well have come into contact with. The painters up were, as the name suggests, deeply influenced by the work of Caravaggio. There was a group of painters who had spent time studying in Rome, and upon their return to the Dutch Republic, they worked in the so-called Caravaggist style. After about 1630, the artists moved in other directions and the movement petered out, but some of Leicester's earliest signed works date to the very late 1620s, and some of them do have some strong Caravaggist traits with high contrast, chiaroscuro. There's a painting dated 1629 called The Jolly Toper, which definitely has those traits. It's a man playing an instrument, dark background, sharp light on the face. So whether she was, I wouldn't, necessarily say she was involved in the movement because there's other works from the same time that aren't, but it's quite high likelihood she was influenced by the work she was seeing by the other Caravaggio's painters in Utrecht at the time. So in 1633, she was admitted as a member of the Harlem Guild of St. Luke. And some sources believe she was the first woman registered by the guild. Others say it was an artist called Sarah van Baalbergen in 1631. Dozens of other female artists may have been admitted to the Guild of St. Luke during the 17th century. However, since the medium that they worked in wasn't often listed, it's impossible to determine how many were actually painters. Because at the time, artists working in mediums such as embroidery, pottery painting, and chair painting and many other forms of decorative arts and crafts were included in the guild.
Wow.
Some of them were even included in the guild for continuing the work of their deceased husbands.
Really?
Yes.
That's cool.
So it's really difficult. It's an amazing essay by Dominic Smith. I actually forgot to do my sources at the beginning of the episode, so I'll come back and go over those at the end if you can remind me.
I'll
But an
remind
amazing
you.
essay by Dominic Smith about the guilds at the time and in relation to Leicester. So and he wrote in his essay on the guild, it seems clear that though there were women painters admitted to the Guild of St. Luke, whose work we have never seen, not so much the missing daughters of the guild, but the missing female masters. So there's plenty more out there to be discovered, it seems.
Yeah. It's kind of amazing to just imagine what a guild would have been like with all of that amazing production going on. And
Mm,
then that it wasn't that crazy for women to be doing these
no.
jobs. Like it wasn't I don't know, in the article he's not saying it's the norm, right? But it's like there are actually like real like a lot of
Yeah.
significant
But until you find a
women
painting
there.
with like a name and a signature, then you can tally it with the guild record and you've
Yeah.
discovered a female artist working at the time. But until you
Yeah.
can do that, you don't really know what these names relate to or what work it is that they did that's out there because it's not
Yeah.
usually listed
Yeah.
what their medium was. And that the medium could be metal
Mhm.
painting or pottery or
Yeah.
jewelry. So
I like the chair painting. That's
yes.
cool. I'm
Yeah.
like, ooh, I want to try and find some painted chairs.
It must have been quite important at the time to have it
Yeah.
be part of a guild for it.
Yeah. But I also imagine that like at the time so much of these paintings like the one today has these details of the different objects and the
Mm.
chairs and the tables and the metalwork that you'd probably be able to just like borrow some
Yeah.
that were around and observe them, right?
Yeah, well, we said in
Imagine.
the in our Clara Peters episode that her
Yeah.
work was only identified because these objects were her personal items.
Mm,
So you take the signed works, and then that's her jug, and then the jug shows up in another work that looks a hell of a lot like a Clara Peters, and you can say with like pretty strong certainty it's by her. So the objects in the paintings do have a lot of relevance, and they're really
mm,
important because
yeah.
sometimes they reveal the artists themselves.
That's so cool. Yeah.
So she was definitely a serious artist on the scene and not just someone making little works in her living room. Within 2 years of entering the guild, Leicester had taken on three male apprentices. And apparently, there's a really interesting case in the records showing that Leicester sued Franz Hals for accepting a student who left her workshop without first getting the permission of the guild.
Ooh.
Ooh, so the student's mother paid Leicester 4 guilders in punitive damages, only half of what was asked for, and Franz Hals settled his part of the lawsuit by paying a 3 guilder fine rather than returning the apprentice. Leicester herself was also fined for not having registered the apprentice in the first place with the guild.
Okay. That seems a bit silly that she did that then.
Yeah. So, following the publicity of her lawsuit with Franz Hals, her paintings received even greater recognition, and it was a really good
Oh.
publicity boost for her.
Wow. But I love that she has beef with Franz Hals.
I know.
Like
Which is
legal beef.
ironic because Franz Hals is the person that all most of her paintings came to be attributed to after her death.
That's even worse.
Yeah,
That's like extra insult.
exactly. So today's work was painted in 1630, and I don't have a lot to say about the subject of the image, the people in it, anything else. I've got some information on the painting itself and its
Mm,
story in terms of how it relates to Leicester and her rediscovery.
mm.
And it was absolutely central to the recognition of the artist today. In 1892, a painting that had been attributed to Franz Hals for more than 100 years became the centre of a major dispute between two English art dealers. The 1630 painting, known at different points in English as the Happy Couple or the Carousing Couple, was typical house and a Dutch Golden Age work, a genre scene of a couple making merry in a tavern. When the painting changed hands for £4,500, the buyer sued after discovering a signature other than Franz Hals right below the violinist's shoe. It was a monogram nobody seemed to recognize, a conjoined J and L struck through with a five-pointed star.
So,
Leicester signed her work with a monogram and her initials JL with a star attached. This was a play on the word Leicester, which means lead star in Dutch, and for the Dutch mariners, it was a common name for the North Star. I did find some information saying that someone had actually put Franz Hals's signature on the work, and that it was only with cleaning that they discovered Leicester's signature. So I don't know if that's the case or not. I only saw it in one source.
mm.
But I do think that was quite common. We wouldn't do it nowadays, but I do think it was quite common in the past for collectors who had an unsigned work but were pretty
Oh,
certain that who it
yeah.
was by that they would have a signature put on it just for the look.
Yeah, I mean, the Victorians are so guilty of over conserving, but
Mm,
also just adding. I know with Italian Renaissance drawings, like, and this is before Victorians, but collectors would just cut up sheets of drawings
Yeah.
and then just write on them like who it's by. Like, please stop. Like,
Oh, I think we
so,
collections and museums were just as guilty, weren't they? With
oh
they would just
yeah.
stamp, particularly works on paper. The
Yeah.
stamps are like they would just poof, poof,
Yeah.
next, like they were
It's
working in a post office. And the
yeah, I
stamps are
mean,
like right on the drawing itself, not in a
yeah.
corner, just like anywhere on the paper.
It's so bad. It's so bad. So it doesn't surprise me that they would do
No.
it. And not even in the way of trying to be fraudulent or trying to deceive, but just as a, oh, it's probably Fran's house, so we'll put it on.
Yeah, that well they'll verify it and then
Mm,
they'll put the signature on to
yeah.
sort of accept that verification that they've made.
Yeah.
And I think that was a lot more normal back then and not seen as quite so fraudulent as we would interpret that
Yeah.
behavior.
It's just crazy.
If that's what happened, yeah, we don't know. But it
So
seems
it was
unlikely that they
cleaned
would accept a
after,
house that had a different signature. So
yeah. It was cleaned after
I
it was
don't know.
bought.
I would assume
Okay.
if someone put a house signature on it, you would only find the Leicester signature after some kind of cleaning and conservation.
Mm.
If that's what happened. But it does seem quite likely because how would you buy a work with a different signature and no one have noticed
Yeah.
otherwise,
Yeah, you'd need, yeah.
So the ensuing court case garnered lots of publicity, as I said, and the public and the media has always had an interest in misattribution, particularly when it relates to large sums of money, which are at stake,
Mm.
depending on the outcome.
Mhm.
In the end, a Dutch collector and art historian, Cornelis Hofstede de Groot, recognised the monogram as belonging to Judith Leyster. Though she'd been praised by observers and historians in her era, she had essentially been erased from art history since her death in 1660. So this is 1892, and this is when they're rediscovering her
Yeah.
after she dies in 1660. So that's like 200 years.
Yeah.
She's completely gone. And after Hofstede de Groot went on to publish an article on Leicester in 1893, 7 more paintings assumed to be by House were then reattributed to Leicester. 6 of them had her monogram on them.
Okay.
They are literally signed.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Can't
Even a
possibly
sig
be by a woman.
Yeah, even with a signature doesn't get you far at that point. So,
Apparently not. Meanwhile, the suing art dealer won the court case against the seller, and the reattribution from House to Leicester knocked 25% off the final sale price.
mm,
Art historians since then have often dismissed her as an imitator or follower of House, although this attitude has changed somewhat in the late 20th century. Which is
mm.
really sad. And Germaine Greer puts it really well in The Obstacle Race, The Fortunes of Women Painters and Their Work. She wrote, "At no time did anyone throw his cap in the air and rejoice that another painter capable of equaling House at his best had been discovered."
That's such a good point.
You'd think it would be exciting to discover, oh my goodness, it's another Dutch Golden Age painter who's had the same
Yeah.
quality to the point where we've mistaken it. And
Mm.
instead, she's seen as like a pale imitation of House.
Yeah, and also I don't, I mean the even the phrase a follower of or circle of,
Mm,
it is seen in quite hierarchical terms, like
yeah.
they're not as good. But I also find it quite confusing because sometimes it's just hard to tell, or like I don't know, does it mean that they're not worthy of looking at as much? Like I definitely fall into the trap if I'm in a museum and I see like Circle of Goya.
Mm.
I'm gonna be less interested probably than if it's a Goya.
Yeah.
But so I mean that's adding insult to injury with the with Judith Leyster, but I also wonder at what point do you decide, I mean this is an open question, but I wonder at what point do museums decide or conservators decide um this is circle of or follower of or
I always
we're
assumed
actually
that was
gonna.
if they were like literally working in the same workshop
That's what I would
or
think.
selling to the same clients.
Yeah, like the apprentice of, or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, because it does make you view it differently than if they were
It
given a name
does.
on their own, because then you just assume, oh, I don't know who this person is.
Yeah,
Whereas if it says follower or circle of, or what was the
yeah.
other one they say? I can't remember. In this, like not in the style of, but there's another word they say.
Yeah, the what is it in Italian Renaissance and Northern Renaissance prints often where the engraver or the woodcut artist is not known by name. They often say master of the and then
Mm,
it'll be and they do that in painting sometimes, don't they? But I quite
yeah,
like that as a way. Like you just
I do.
assign the name and then
Yeah.
you've got the name
And then
and
I'll
the
just do a city.
identity. Yeah, and a city and a time, but it's more vague. Um, but that is such a good point from who was that? Griselda Pollock,
Jermaine Greer.
Germaine Greer. Yeah, that's so true. It's like, why wouldn't we be happy about this? How
Yeah.
exciting is that?
Why is that not a bonus rather than, oh, wow, we've just discovered an image? It's like
Yeah.
almost as if you've discovered like a fake, you know?
Yeah. But then that's interesting because it's like if you discover something that has been so close to, again, like say a Goya or a Franz Hals or and it is basically as good.
Mm.
And then you realize it's not by that person. Is that bad then? Should we always celebrate and be like, yay,
Yeah,
like
we've
at
discovered
least
a new
no,
artist.
like someone else was as good as Goya or Franz House or
I
I
think
don't
we
know.
should.
I think we should, but it's not an easy like because we put so much emphasis on the artist, don't
Yeah.
we?
I mean,
And
it's
I'm
like we were
definitely
saying in
guilty of
that when we were
that.
talking about Artemisia Gentileschi and
Mm.
saying that there's so much impetus to discover more of
Yeah,
them
that they
because of the
overdo
value
it.
and the cachet that she has now.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so you can understand people would rather at the particularly at that time would rather have discovered a Frans house. I suppose
Mm.
even now, on some level.
Yeah, although I don't know, it'd be pretty exciting to find Judith Leisters.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I had a look on the Louvre website because I discovered that's where this work is.
Mm.
And the entry on the website is really just a few lines describing it as being in the style of house and depicting.
No,
I know,
stop.
and that it depicts a scene similar to the temptation in the parable of the prodigal son.
Yeah.
And trying to find a good
Mm.
quality image of this work is quite a task as well. You have to
Mm.
pay for one. The Louvre website doesn't have a good quality image.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize because I keep seeing her on my like Instagram feed, and I
Mm.
guess because I follow lots of art history accounts, I thought she was like long discovered and now huge.
Yeah.
And so to discover that the Louvre website had like a couple of lines and some
Mm.
not very great images, yeah, it just seems like we still have a bit of a way to go in terms of discussing and documenting Judith Leyster.
Yeah. And how many works in total are attributed to her?
Well, that I will get onto
Yeah.
because it's actually interesting. She's a bit of a Van Gogh.
Okay.
Well, except, well, just in terms of I'll get onto it. I'll come
Yeah,
on to
go
it.
on.
Okay. So
I
in
often ask something and then I'm like, I'm probably just skipping ahead. Yeah.
so in 1636, she married the artist Jan Mietzer Molenaar, and they both worked on similar subjects like portraits and history paintings. And in hopes of better financial prospects, the couple moved to Amsterdam, where Molenaar already had clients. They remained there for 11 years before returning to the Haarlem area, and they shared a studio in a small house located in the present-day Groendaal Park. Leicester and Molenaar had 5 children, only 2 of whom survived to adulthood.
Mm.
Almost all, so this is me answering your question, sort of,
Mm.
almost all of her signed work falls between 1629 and 1635. So a span of
Whoa.
only 6 years.
That's the Van Gogh link, right?
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, like, did she like cut off her ear? I
Yeah,
mean, that's
she cut off
ridiculous.
her big toe.
Yeah.
No.
It's like mental health crisis going
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
But as I said, 1635, she married in
Mm.
1636. So it tapers
Oh,
off almost
yeah.
completely after her marriage.
Yeah.
And it may be because they started collaborating quite a lot on works, and she
Mm.
sort of fell under his studio to some in some regard.
Mm.
But after 1635, there are two illustrations in a book about tulips by her, and a portrait in 1652, and a still life in 1654 that was discovered in a private
Mm.
collection in the 21st century.
Wow.
Interestingly, though, in 1648, when Leicester was not yet 40, a Dutch commentator, Theodore Schrevel, had noted there also have been many experienced women in the field of painting who are still renowned in our time and could compete with men. Among them, one excels exceptionally, Judith Leyster, called the true leading star in art. So, although her output had dropped massively by that point, she wasn't
Mm.
exactly forgotten about in her lifetime. She's still really revered,
Yeah.
even though she stopped painting, mostly stopped painting about 15 years ago. So,
But the 1650s one, the still life, was that's
Mm.
a painting,
Mm,
right? Yeah, interesting that she was still, so she was actually still doing stuff,
yeah.
probably. It
Yeah.
was
Well,
just, but maybe it's just her output was just significantly less.
yeah.
I
And
guess.
also, after her death, a lot of her work also got attributed to her husband as well as House.
Oh, it's just
So,
like,
her
please.
work is kind of tied up in his work to in some
Yeah.
degree as well,
Gross.
particularly if they collaborated.
Artemisia's husband wasn't a painter, was he?
No, it wasn't her husband, it was her father that her work got
Yeah.
attributed to.
But
So
I
it
she
all
did
went to
wait,
Orazio.
but she did get married, right?
She
And
did.
have
I
lots
can't
of
remember
kids.
if he was a painter. I think he might have been. I feel like he
Because I
might have
think
been, but he
wait,
wasn't. He never really sort of, that rings a bell.
yeah, I think there's oh no now. It's soft. Okay, there was one Italian female painter, I think, yeah, around like Sophonisba
Mm.
era, who had like 11 kids or something, but also was,
Fontana?
yeah, that's it. Wait, is it Lavinia
I think
Fontana?
it's Lavinia
Lavinia
Fontana.
Fontana. And she was like, had so many kids, but was somehow bringing in all the money for the family, and the husband just kind of like hung out. And it's like it's very much like not the story of all of these artists. Like often it is, isn't it, that they like, eh, if domestic life gets like catches up with them,
Mm.
they'll get absorbed into their husband's studio or they stop altogether or yeah. But I just that's just so after the I think also after the lawsuit where you think that she was so in that world
Yeah.
and
He had
then to
apprentices.
yeah and having apprentices and everything and then to become like part of your husband's studio and afterwards have your name absorbed into his work is just quite sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. But vindication for Judith now.
It came in the end. Eventually, it only took a few hundred years.
Yeah.
So she died in 1660, aged 50, and was buried at a farm just outside of Haarlem. After her death, none of her artwork was publicly displayed or attributed to her for almost 200 years. The
Mm.
fact that the inventory of her estate attributed many of the paintings to the wife of Molinar, not to Judith Leyster, may have also contributed to the misattribution of her work
Mm.
to her husband and then later misattribution to Franz Hals as
Mm.
well. In March 2021, Leicester's work was added to the Gallery of Honor at the Rijksmuseum. Leicester, Gesine Terborch, and Rachel Roish are the first women to be included in that gallery.
Mm. Cool. Where is the Gallery of Honor in there? Is that just like one of the big? Yeah, I've been quite a few times, but it's so huge. I
I know,
didn't
I was thinking the same
realize.
thing. I was like, I don't remember a Gallery of Honor, but maybe it was just a really great room of paintings that I didn't
Yeah,
clock
but there's
that it was
so many
particular.
great rooms of paintings at the Rijksmuseum that it's like,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. My mum is actually going to Amsterdam next week. I'm very jealous because it's just such a good museum.
It's so gorgeous. It's one of
Yeah.
my favorites. And
Yeah.
it's I just love being in there. It's so
Mm.
it's calm in there. It just
Yeah.
feels really calm and
Yeah.
really some museums really feel like they're trying to push you towards the gift shop and the exit in some way. And
Yeah.
there's quite a lot of like frenetic tourism. Must see,
Yeah.
must see, must take photo, must move on sort of
Oh
thing about
yeah.
just like using almost the paintings being like landmarks. And
Mm,
there's something about the Rice Museum that's very
mm.
like I don't know, it just feels very
Yeah.
calm in there.
They also do very good exhibitions, like temporary exhibitions there as
Mm.
well. I saw one that was all about insects a few years ago, and it was amazing, the stuff that they had on. Like it was partly just all of those really, really detailed Dutch still life kind of naturalist,
Mm.
um, almost miniature paintings like that. But the way they displayed it and just brought out the different aspects of insects. It was very cool. And I feel like, yeah, I need to keep an eye on what they have. Actually, I think they have an exhibition now on Ovid's Metamorphoses, which I'm like, maybe
How
I need
appropriate.
to go. Yeah, just make it like link and then see if I can, yeah,
We
see if I
do need to
can.
do an exhibition road trip for the podcast. I
That
think that'd
would
be
be
fun.
so cool. Yeah, I mean, which one? Wait, now I'm just getting Michelina Wattier.
At the RA.
Yeah.
That would be a nice low budget travel. We're thinking further afield.
Yeah. I mean, we should go to like Washington.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, that's the thing. It's always everything we do always ends up being either at the museum, the National Gallery of Art, Washington, or the Kunsthistorisches in Vienna.
Yeah, true, actually. Yeah, maybe Vienna. I'm like, anyway, all of these places, it's like, no, you're staying in London. Like, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Although the RA is hardly low budget, to be honest, with the RA entry fees, which just
that's
annoy
true.
me so much. But there you go.
That's true. I didn't know
That's
they
my
were they
bugbear.
like close on Monday or Wednesday or something as well. I turned up once and I was like recently, I had no idea they were going to be shut. So
It'd be more understandable if it was Monday because museums tend to close on Mondays, but I
maybe it
feel
was
like,
Monday then.
yeah, maybe. But anyway.
Anyway, we've wandered.
Yeah, sorry, we have wondered. But yeah, just back to the like painting itself.
Mm.
How big is it? Is it very small?
I
Because
don't
I'm
believe
like,
it's very big. I'm gonna have to look up
okay.
the scale of it. So I've got
Yeah.
a page up for it here. It says it's 57 by 68 centimeters.
Okay. Yeah, fairly small then.
Sort of
Yeah.
domestic painting.
And do you, I mean, this is just me contributing to what I've been criticizing, but do you like Fran's house? Slash this vibe? Because I have to say, when I saw it, I think it's the tilted head and it's the laugh
It is, yeah. It's the facial
that is
expression.
very Fran's house.
Mm,
But in terms of like, and this is the thing, you know how everyone with Artemisia is like they read into
yeah.
the her experience as a woman in the world, and
Yeah.
then they read that into like her depictions of women being violent towards men and
Hmm.
like all of that. With this, it is much more like this is a genre painting, and you
Yeah.
don't, yeah, like the point of it was not to give a sense of.
Who she was.
Yeah, which I'm not saying that was necessarily the case with Artemisia at all as well, but
I'd
yeah.
have to see this painting up close to know how it
Yeah.
relates to House because House has such distinctive brushwork.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I mean,
that is the beauty of a house work is that brush
yeah,
the
it's
way that
incredible.
he uses the paint.
Yeah.
And that's what makes him so different to Rembrandt and so recognizable.
Hmm.
So I really have to see that we have a Judith Leyster in the National Gallery, but it's not one of her best.
Oh no,
It's
which one is
sort of
it?
it's two children, I think it's whether it's something and an eel, like a cat and an eel or something, but they
Oh,
look
I
like
quite like that one
they've got
actually.
adult faces. It really weirds me out.
It is weird, but I like the cat. I really like the cat in it.
Yeah.
Um, so I think when I was a kid, looking at like animals in artworks is
Mm.
always more fun. Um, I say that, and that's what I do in so much of my PhD. So it's like also now.
I was gonna say when you were a
Yeah.
child, you did
Yeah,
that.
when I was a child and now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess it's a weird, I find these kind of paintings, for seeing them in real life and the brushwork, I love.
Mm.
But as an image, I find them the Dutch, like the 17th century Dutch Golden Age paintings are so often bound up with like they talk about the prodigal son, right? And it's strange, I think, for a lot of audiences today seeing these, because it seems to be like this everyday scene, but it's also was so bound up with morals and allegory. And I know
Yeah,
historians of that era will understand the nuances of it, but just coming to it, it can be quite
it's kind of a complicated time, isn't it? Because
hard.
it's that point at which your people were really decorating their houses with paintings,
Mm,
but because of sort of religious constraints, the manner of portraiture and genre paintings, it had a slightly
mm,
kind of moralistic tone to it. So even
yeah,
the portraits of the rich people are quite austere and like dulled
very, yeah.
down, and then the genre paintings have some kind of moral tale to
Yeah,
tell. Even
yeah,
the still lives have some kind of moral tale to tell. So it's
yeah.
not, it's got that sort of, it's not really totally about the time. It's something about the morals of the time.
Mm,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
I think
exactly.
it makes them a
Yeah.
little harder to read until, like, if you're trying to look at Leyster herself or about how she feels about anything in particular, because this is the kind of
Yeah.
work that sells and this is the style and
Yeah.
you see a lot of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And this came in that period of intense productivity,
Yeah.
presumably.
Yeah. Yes, because
And
this is
presumably lots of
1630.
clients. And like,
Yeah.
I mean, this was selling. This was the stuff that was selling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I hopefully will come across some more female Dutch Golden Age painters in the years to come.
Yeah, I know. I wonder if there are any kind of yeah, there might be some who are emerging now.
There must be more out there.
Yeah.
I
Do you
didn't
want to
you
do
realize
your
they exist, and then you start to gather a little pile of them. You're like, wow, okay.
It's really cool. But also there are just so many that we'll just never know the names of.
Some of them
Um,
are probably still attributed to someone else. So,
yeah, also, yeah. Do you want to do your sources, by the way? I've
yes.
just remembered.
Okay. So, the sources for today's episode are the Louvre website page on the
Mhm.
artist, on this painting. Obviously, the Wikipedia on Judith Leyster,
Mhm.
the National Gallery of Art Washington website, and a really great essay called Daughters of the Guild by Dominic Smith, which was heavily used in this.
Nice. Cool. Thank you for joining us this week. We can never be 100% sure of the accuracy of historical events. However, the information we are providing is based on our own research. If there's a painting you'd like to hear us discuss, please let us know on social media. And if you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe for weekly episodes.